Editor's Preface to A Jewish State by Theodor Herzl, translated by Sylvie Avigdor. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recording by Adrian Praetzellis. Although proportionally heretofore but little read or studied, the pages that follow this introduction will eventually occupy a noteworthy place in Jewish and universal history. Whilst the author, Dr. Theodor Herzl, was confessedly not moved by the novelty of the Jewish state idea, yet he was in the main unconscious in the winter of 1895 of the parentage of his thoughts, for those who laboured before him, excepting George Eliot, were comparatively obscure, and their words had only found acceptance amongst eclectic bands of enthusiasts in Eastern Europe. It is, however, curious that although argumentative, polemical, or enthusiastic, none of the forerunners of the Jewish state were, in the real sense, visionaries, and this brochure is only grandiose in the simplicity of its presentation of an idea, and historic by what its publication has already achieved. Although the Jewish state idea may be utopian, which its advocates deny, its author sketched no utopia, and offers no picture of an ideal human future. It was sufficient for him to point out how the wounds of Israel might be healed, and to remove the chafing which the conjunction of Jew and anti-Semite brings about. He offered a temporal and not a spiritual salvation to a suffering people, though those who regard him as thereby doing an allotted task towards the destiny divinely decreed are not without reasonable justification for their opinion. The Jewish position became so critical in 1890 that Baron de Hirsch thought out his Argentine plans and began founding his colonies in the pampas-grass districts of the Spanish-American Republic in order to aid the Jews to remove themselves from persecuted countries. The rise of Alvart in Germany, the break-up of the Liberal Party in Austria, and the particular success of the anti-Semitic factions in Vienna, the trial and sentence of Dreyfus in Paris, and the immediate lowering of the position of the Jews in France which followed, and for which Drumont had laboured partially, the failure of the Argentine experiments. These facts, and others of lesser and greater degree, will mark out the first half of the last decade of the 19th century as black years in Jewish history. It was seeing and hearing these things, as an observer rather than as a participant, that Theodor Herzl came to the Jewish people with an odd thought. We are a people, one people, and an old corollary, the restoration of the Jewish state, unaware that, except in a vague way, there was at least 15 years of active work and some propaganda behind him. Fearful, perhaps, of being regarded as a visionary, he vaguely designated the future Jewish state simply as over there, and over there it undoubtedly would have remained had not the Jewish state responded to a thought definite and concise, long pent up in Jewish bosoms. Over there must be Palestine. Herzl, as a cool thinker, argued that the propelling force needed to create a Jewish state exists in the misery of the Jews. The volume of that misery is unmistakable, but his book was taken up by and his following was created out of an element who, though in close touch with misery, often the actual sufferers, found within themselves a still greater motive power to national restoration than misery, to wit, love, faith, and hope, a bundle of emotions wrapped up in the praying shawl of the Jew, and these, when spread out, make up a flag which can only float on the breezes of Zion. This Jewish state, therefore, went through such violent
Sample complete. Ready to continue?